And welcome back to part 6 of What If Ichigo, yeah, Ichigo, I had to remember, I am doing Bleach now. What if Ichigo was part Saiyan? So last time, we basically kind of just quickly went through the rest of the fake Town arc, Hueco all that, and Ichigo at this point has lost his Soul Reaper / Quincy abilities, his spiritual abilities, if you will. And that leads us into the Fullbring arc. Now, the beginning of the arc would be the same. Ginjo meets him, offers him the bowl of ramen, uh, but Ichigo doesn't really trust him and doesn't really care ultimately. Later on, Ichigo would meet up with him again to more or less, ask, okay, we need a Soul Reaper to remove our powers. Obviously, it's actually to take the powers. And Ichigo at first declines the offer, obviously. But as time goes on, even though he does have his ability to turn into Super Saiyan and still has Super Saiyan ability, enhanced physicality, he does still ultimately go with them because he's missing the core of his power. Being a Saiyan isn't the core of Ichigo's power in this series. It's actually more like a subset. I mean, it is biology, and technically it's his part of his primary biology. But the difference with the Saiyan biology and the Quincy Hollow and Shinigami biology is that all three of those are very much like the main part, like are almost equaled out in his biological makeup, whereas the Saiyan part of him is a lot more diluted out. So even though he is a Saiyan, at least on some level, and can do the Super Saiyan transformations, even manipulate ki, he's not as powerful as, say, a normal Saiyan would be. Even a half breed or like even a quarter Saiyan. Ichigo, like I said, is at minimum like a 1/5, 6th, or 8th Saiyan, something like that. Now, with that being said, he is still more powerful than the average human, which brings up an interesting scenario here. Ichigo agrees to train to gain his Soul Reaper powers back, and the first step was to unlock a Fullbring. He's got a Soul Reaper badge, and they throw him into the dollhouse with the pig. I can't remember exactly what that guy's name was. Did they call him Mr. Pork? I think that's what it was. But yeah, they turn him into the giant pig, and Ichigo gets attacked. But in the original, Ichigo really couldn't do anything against this guy until he activated his Fullbring. Here, however, Ichigo immediately just quickly dodges the pig and just transforms and just boom, just blasts the pig back with a shot, and everyone's just like, the hell? So and even Ginjo, who knows that Ichigo is a Shinigami, but probably didn't know about the Super Saiyan or the Saiyan biology, is surprised. I was like, what is that? Now, here's something that I didn't think about until literally today. While Ichigo still has his Saiyan powers, like I said, his Saiyan powers are are the smallest part of his power set, but still there. Someone did bring up and it's a legit point that ki is more of a spiritual, just internal energy, whereas Reishi Ryatsu does work more on the atomic scale, and it does. I still think for the sake of this video, we can kind of use them together. Just they're not the exact same thing, but they are related at least. Ichigo, for example, can still technically interact with spirits, but he cannot see them or even really sense them very well. At least not without his base powers. But the thing I didn't consider until earlier today is this. Think about this for a second. Ichigo did obtain Super Saiyan as a kid in his human form. However, all the training he did past that has all been in his Shinigami form, in his spiritual form, which means accessing Super Saiyan 2 and even hitting Super Saiyan 3 temporarily when he transferred into the Mugetsu form. All of that was with his spiritual body. Now, the interesting conundrum we have here is that, does all that power translate back to Ichigo, or does the fact that he no longer has his Shinigami or Quincy powers mean that even though he has access to those transformations, his power is significantly dropped because he's lacking right now his other powers? I'm inclined to think it's the latter. Once he gets his powers back, then he jumps back up to like super tier. But Yeah, he is unfortunately limited because he is, by all accounts, just in a physical body right now, with missing the Shinigami and Quincy powers he had. Now, granted, before anyone gets on my case, I'm aware that technically, biologically speaking, he's still a hybrid. He is still that. He's just lacking those powers at the moment. So that would also mean, then, hypothetically, what is Ichigo's baseline power level right now? Not that we use power levels really in Bleach at all, but what is his power level? That would be he's certainly well above an average human, easily above an average human. Uh, would I say he's stronger than, say, remember, we're just talking about his base form, stronger than, say, like Raditz, like 1500 plus or something like that? Probably not, if I'm going to be honest, but definitely in the couple hundreds, which means if I were to hypothetically max out his powers, I would say he's I don't know, low hundreds of thousands hypothetically. But Ichigo can still transform into these forms, is the point I'm getting at, and he does go into Super Saiyan and quickly. I'm going to call him Mr. Pork. That probably was, or Bacon, one of the two. Mr. Pork quickly takes down Mr. Pork, and they're like, what? It's like, Ichigo, what exactly is this power? I don't know. It's like, I've never quite understood what it is. And he just kind of starts explaining it. Never understood what it is. It's just something I was able to do even before I turned into a Shinigami. I'm not sure what this is, but we're gonna have to raise the power of Mr. Pork. I can only make him so strong. And then they talk to, was it Ginjo, Ryuka, Jackie, Garinko? What was the name of the guy with Time Tells No Lies? That Fullbring. What was his name? Giriko? Is that what his name was? The gentlemanly bartender type. Hold on one second here. It's bugging me. Let's see here. It was Ginjo. It's Ginjo Kujo. I'm gonna find him. Don't worry, I'm gonna find him. Where is that guy? And they were the Fullbringers. Come on, there's the Fullbringers. I was right. Giriko. That was his name. Giriko Kutsuzawa. He threw a combination. By the way, I don't believe it's ever actually explained that the Time Tells No Lies is the reason Mr. Pork was turned into that. I don't remember. But he alters the construct, makes him stronger. Ichigo just keeps going into stronger forms. Eventually, he's into Super Saiyan 3, but unfortunately, even though he starts beating down Mr. Pork again, he quickly just starts huffing and puffing because he's never actually gone into this form outside of his spiritual form and outside of the time he turned into it against Aizen. He knows he has the form, he just has thought to train with it, really. In fact, I would imagine that even though Ichigo still has this power, he doesn't train with it very much because Ichigo actually isn't someone, think about this for a second, but Ichigo is not someone who trains outside of needing to get stronger. He doesn't train to maintain his strength or anything like that. He just, as far as we don't see him do it. We see him train to get stronger. We saw him train to get his Bankai, to master his Shi, or to work with his Shikai. We saw him train to get his visor mask. We saw him training at the Royal Palace. But we don't see him in his day-to-day life training. So, yeah, I would imagine Ichigo, just trying to live a normal life, has not really been keeping up with his Saiyan heritage very much at this point. Eventually, it gets to the point where Mr. Pork has got to be now at a near captain level. Ichigo now can't maintain Super Saiyan 3, so he has to just go down to Super Saiyan 2. And even that, because he's just been wasting his energy, is a little hard to maintain, but he's able to maintain it. Finally activates the Fullbring, figures out how to use it, and knocks out Mr. Pork. This leads us into the next part of this arc where he trains with Jackie. And unfortunately, Jackie's about to get her teeth kicked in because even with a maxed out Dirty Boots, there is no way on God's green earth she's actually keeping up with Ichigo right now. Jackie is strong, but in fact, most of the Fullbringers are at least lieutenant level, I'd say. Only Tsukishima, Ginjo, definitely. And I could make an argument for Giriko, depending on who he was fighting. Would I consider them captain class? It's more that the rest of their ability. Oh, and Michibane from the light novel is high captain class. But yeah, the other Fullbringers like Jackie, for example, is not captain class. In fact, I'd argue she's She's probably more like High Lieutenant because she couldn't even take on Renji after the time skip, and that's not even the strongest Renji. Ria Riruka is not captain class. She's just got a weird power. Neither is Mo. Neither is Yuriko. They just have unique powers, and Chad is not a captain class at all. So yeah, she's kind of getting her teeth kicked in a little bit, but she's holding her own. Ichigo, I think eventually they basically say, yeah, you can't transform into those right now. And we're trying to weaken your Shinigami powers, and that is not helping. You're actually stronger than me at the moment, but that's even though you're not, even though you're stronger than me, that you're not using Shinigami powers to beat me. And so Ichigo's like, all right, fine, and chills out his power, and then he starts training, getting the Shinigami powers back. Um, and eventually he awakens it. You would go through most of the same stuff that happens there. And remember, Ginjo is in Tsukishima are, in fact, all Fullbringers are still working together. So if Ichigo tries to use his Super Saiyan with his Fullbring power that he awakens, Ginjo inherently might try to stop him. Um, Tsukishima might even be like completely overwhelmed by the sheer level of speed and power that's coming at him through Ichigo's transformation. Ginjo and him duke it out. He's ultimately trying to, again, Ichigo knows to not use the Super Saiyan powers, only for his eyes to get cut out. He goes into Super Saiyan, but he just can't find him. Finally senses him, unlocks his full Fullbring. There you go. Now, with the finale, Ichigo's Fullbring, he can use basically that like super fast, though not as powerful Getsuga. He also transforms, and he's very much overwhelming Tsukishima. He could easily kill Tsukishima. Unfortunately, Tsukishima still basically tricks slashes Ginjo, and Ichigo is able to sense the stabbing of his sword into what was it, blade of scaffolding or something like that, or cross of scaffolding. I can't remember exactly what the name of his. It was cross of what was it again? Cross of what was it? Cross of because I know that he's cross turns into a big old sword. That's what it does. Let's see here. It was his cross. Yes. Oh yeah, cross of not scaffolding. It's cross of scaffold, which turns into a really cool. Honestly, it was a really cool sword. Honestly, he turned into. And so, he is Ginjo robbing his powers. Now, obviously, everyone also shows up. She gets stabbed with the energy sword, gets his Shinigami powers back. Everyone gets a portion of Ichigo's power, and he goes to fight with Ginjo. Now, this is where we see a fundamental problem for Ichigo and everyone else. Well, for most of them. Because they stole his powers, and because the Saiyan part of his biology is something that's always present there, Saiyan elements would have been transferred with that stolen power, which means they all have a little bit of Saiyan in them now. Now, what does that translate out to roughly? First off, it's translating to even stronger forms of their powers. I mean, straight out Ryatsu alone is stronger here. I've been toying with this idea. Do I give all of them, none of them, or some of them tails? Because if I'm not mistaken, there was a full moon out during that fight. And even if there's not, I'm saying there is. Because screw it, we need some variety in the story, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I will say this. I think that the bulk of power, probably, they all got power-ups, and it's stronger here than it was in the original. I think it's going to go to Giriko and Ginjo. Now, why do I say Giriko? Well, because I would like Kenpachi to have a little fun, at least. Like, look at him and say, maybe he manages to briefly stop Kenpachi's play and say, maybe you're a little more fun than I thought. Nah, you're just freaking boring. But see, so yeah, and unfortunately, because they all got put into separate rooms, none of them could go, even if they all had tails, they could not go to Ozaru, save for Mo. What was that guy's name again? Mo Money? Mo Money? I know. But seriously, his first name is Mo. He's the one with the jackpot knuckle, Fullbring. Let's see here. But anyway, Shigawara, I think it was, like Mo Shigawara or something like that. Either way, he was out in the night, but I don't think he's gonna. They also actually didn't give him any power too, so he's not getting anything. So his fight is the only one that goes the same. Him with him and Ikaku. Kenpachi's cutting down. Renji maybe actually feels a bit more of the hit this time when Jackie hits him, but I think he's still pretty much completely outclassed. Because here's the thing, even if I doubled her power, Renji didn't even really feel that punch. She went all out on him pretty much. So even if I doubled or even tripled her power, at most he might be like, not bad. Now my turn. Boom, and just knock her out cold. So yeah, unfortunately that wouldn't change much there. And Tsukishima also did not get any infinite power, which means his Byakuya fight would go the same. Toshiro might have some problems because the game, I can't remember the name of the game manipulating Fullbring. What was it? Enemies must die or something like that. I know it was Yuiko's Fullbring. What was it? It was Mo Shishiwagara. Shishigarwara. Oh God. I can't. What was the? It was something Invaders, I think. What was the name of his Fullbring? Invaders Must Die. I knew it was a combination of that. It's a powerful ability. It's just not really a super ability. The big one, obviously, is going to be Ginjo, and particularly where he and Ichigo are concerned. Their fight would start out roughly the same and go roughly the same, although Ginjo is actually now going to be pushing more of an edge because he's got extra power, Saiyan power in him, which means now their strength is now a lot more comparable. Ichigo eventually goes Bankai, breaks out of the Invaders Must Die, because we know that happened, and and Ginjo just kind of smiles and just goes, I also have a Bankai, Ichigo. Although we never know what his Zanpakuto was. To say that that's his Bankai is a little weird, to be honest, because that's not even his Zanpakuto as far as we know. But then, and he can all of a sudden, and as they fight, once again, it's going in Ichigo's favor as he quickly just goes to Super Saiyan. Ginjo tries to transform, and he just can't. He can't figure out what he's doing wrong. And he's just getting angrier. He's like, you Ichigo! And his head's like, are you trying to understand me, Ichigo? I will never. And he gets blasted back, and he looks, and his eyes catch the moon. And this whole time, there's been this stark white furry tail on his ass that he doesn't even know about. He just boop, boop, and you get that boop, boop, that heartbeat. Like I always get in when they suddenly are unlocking something deadly. Just boop, boop. And all of a sudden, they all see he's like, and just turns into the Great Ape, the Ozaru Ginjo, if you will. And his sword, because his sword has got enhanced power, I'll give it a little bit of leeway here and say the sword also grows in power as well. And so he's just like this weird, skeletally armored with this furry like collar, Ozaru covered in bone armor, and his power obviously magnifies 10 times. So now Ichigo has to just keep flying around, just buzzing around. He goes Super Saiyan 2, moving so fast that he's on it. He can't even be caught right now. And just Ginjo just so basically fires off a ki blast, which in this case would be a combination of ki and Ryatsu. And excuse me, he just starts swinging his swords. Eventually, Ichigo just kind of just gets a Gotenshou and eventually hits his tail, which allows him to transform back. Ginjo is just huffing and puffing. And Rocky was staring out on the silence. He's like, is you sure I can't go enjoy this? This is Ichigo's fight. So, unfortunately, like, oh man, he gets to have all the fun. Fight me, gets to fight him. No fun. He got to fight Aizen. I want to fight Aizen. I could actually see Cad Blanchett getting very like not sulky, but kind of like I want to fight. But anyway, ultimately it does end with the unfortunate death of Ginjo. One of the only few individuals outside of just random hollows that Ichigo is straight up killed when you think about it, because he did kill Ukiura, although that was his hollow slash Zangetsu doing that. He didn't kill anyone in the Soul Society arc. He didn't kill anyone outside of Ukiura. Didn't even kill Aizen. He killed Ginjo, and he is the one who technically killed Yuawak, although we know some of his energy lingered. Beyond that, though, Ichigo has barely killed anyone as a protagonist. We know, like, hell, Naruto, I think, has a bigger body count than he does. And Naruto doesn't even have that big of a body count. Yeah, for some reason, these protagonists really don't have, especially the ones who can get away with killing, don't have a big body count. But I digress. So anyway, it ends with death of Ginjo, death of Tsukushima, and Ichigo is goes to the Soul Society, thanks him, and says, "I'm going to bring his body back," so forth and so on. So that is the end of the Fullbring arc. Not as much changes as I initially thought it would. Like, I did like the idea of Uzaru Ginjo first and foremost, and the Saiyan biology mixing in with the stolen Fullbring power that he took from Ichigo. So I did like that concept. Also, understanding that because the Saiyan biology isn't spiritual in nature, it's part of his biology even more than being a Shinigami and a Quincy is. It's something that he could maintain even after losing his Shinigami and Quincy powers and Hollow powers. But that said, it led to some fun changes in the script, but not any fundamental change to the Fullbring story. We'll leave off with the 1,000-Year Blood War coming on Saturday. And that is where we'll ultimately end it. And then we'll put up the post for the next What If You Want to Do. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys later.